Okay, it's fine. Okay, and we should be live right now on Comma.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live session on Comma Rethink Life. And my name is Grace. I'm the founder of Comma, and this is my husband, Alex.
Hello.
We've been married since like forever, 2006.
Yeah, and since then we've been blessed with two kids who sometimes drive us up the wall, but they still give us a lot of joy.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So basically, today's topic is going to be something really quite interesting. Actually, I feel that it's something that a lot of us, actually, every married couple, or even if you're just in a relationship and thinking about getting married to your partner that you're with right now, it is definitely a huge topic about how your upbringing has influenced your values in life and also your inherent values, like what you have, how that influences your marriage, right? So a very, very big topic, and there's actually so many different types of issues that can arise out of this. So definitely we want to also take questions from all of you. If you have any questions that you might have regarding this topic, you can please comment, and then we will try to address it as much as we can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as we kick off, maybe you can just say hi in the comments and just let us know who you are, where you're from, and whether you're married or not. Yeah. Maybe what I can start with is just talking a little bit about how, before all of us we enter into a marriage,
Yep.
maybe, at the age of 20 something, we've already been patterned by our parents and our social environment for 20 odd years, and when you come
Or 30 odd
together,
years or whenever.
yeah,
Yeah,
and when you
correct.
come and when you come together, that's when you decide to get married, and you're supposed to start a new culture as a couple together, and sometimes there can be stresses that come into play because it's a little bit of a I suppose a fight or a struggle between the old way of doing things and the new way or expectations that your spouse has. We've had our share of issues, to be honest, and I believe most people would have that period of adjustment, or maybe that period never ends. You just keep on, I suppose, making do, or seeing how you can, work out things to the best you can.
Yeah, well, we want to say hi to some of the people who joined. There's Shireen, Jenny. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us. Well, we're going to just like wait a few seconds. I don't know, a few minutes. We're going to just jump right in. We're talking today about how, about marriage and upbringing, and how do we navigate our differences in the context of a marriage relationship. Yeah, so maybe you can share a little bit about like some of the things that you talk about, where our family culture, where we come from, and or example that we have faced in our own marriage.
Yeah, I think one of the areas is definitely on chores. Maybe as you grow up, you see your dad do certain things, and there's this certain expectation that your dad will continue to, or the man of the house should be doing certain things, and the woman of the house should do certain things. So typically, when we got married, maybe I expected you to cook just like how my mom would cook, but then again, you didn't really have that expectation that you would cook for the family, even though you are nyonya and you can
Yeah, my cooking skills are terrible. I cannot cook to save my life. But then, thankfully for MCO right now, at least it's a little bit more improved. Though I cannot tell the names of the vegetables still. I know broccoli and cauliflower and stuff like that. But I think like what's sometimes, yeah, there's those kind of expectations. It's more of a role thing, a gender role, isn't it? Like sometimes it's what you have seen in your family and you expect it to be like that.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not sure whether we've got a little bit of an internet issue. It seems to be going up and down. Maybe let me try and reset something.
Okay.
Just give me a second.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, let's hope we're back.
Yep. Well, if you guys face any issues or you can't hear us clearly, just type there. But if you can hear us clearly, say yes.
Yeah. So I suppose both my dad and my mom cook, but for myself, I was never brought up in the environment where I was expected to cook. And maybe I had secret hopes that my wife would be the one who would cook really nice delicacies, especially since your mom was a great cook and she had all these nyonya dishes and so on.
So thankfully, we had this conversation before we got married, right? You knew I couldn't cook, basically. Yeah, but I think especially you mentioned about chores and gender roles. I suppose in a way that roles because you feel that like, oh, okay, that's what my parents used to do, or that's what I used to see in my own family, and that was considered the normal thing in your family, because I guess that's what right? Like you don't you we all come from different cultures, and in fact, even if we brought up in the same family, like your value system from your siblings could be completely different as well.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, so let's see. Yep, loud and clear. Okay, great. Yeah, so hopefully we won't be having internet issues, because I think we just had a little bit of a glitch there. So for those who just joined us, Crystal, hi, thanks for joining us. And Shireen says, after being married for nearly 16 years and knowing my partner for 20 years, the upbringing part plays a huge hidden perspective in our marriage, and I feel it gets harder as we grow older. Do you think it's harder when we get older? Like sometimes some of these issues crop up, like the values. Maybe sometimes I feel that like as we go older, we don't really want to change. Right?
I'm not sure. Can everybody hear us? If everyone can hear us, say upbringing.
Okay. I was checking, see what's going on. Sorry guys, we're facing some technical internet connection issues, so we're just gonna like, yeah, pause. Can you guys hear us clearly? Loud and clear?
Let's find this now.
Mm-hmm. Can you guys hear us clearly out there? It says live video.
Okay, sorry. I'm not sure why the internet is not behaving itself today. It sometimes happens. But yeah, I think we are back. Okay. So sorry, you were just welcoming Crystal and saying hi to Shireen and Jordan.
Yeah. Hi, Shireen, Jordan, Crystal. Thanks for joining us. Nelson, thanks for coming and joining us. All right. The topic today is about marriage and upbringing. Okay, and we started off with like a slightly simpler part, which is like talking about upbringing in terms of the chores. What was normal in my family will be brought into the marriage itself. Yeah, and thanks Malika for joining in. That's my neighbor. Hi. Yeah. So basically, we want to be able to discuss and address some of these issues, and I think we're going to bring up some topics I think usually a lot of couples do face, right, in their marriage. And so for example, like one of it could be the fact that if your family has a lot of values that they place upon family time, eating together as a family, being together as a family, but you marry someone who is completely different and their family only eats together like once a month or something like that, or they don't even have, yeah, they don't even meet up for meals. You just go to your room and do your thing, or the parents are not even around. Like that's completely different culture, and that's where all these values that your family has like instilled upon you actually is so much more ingrained in you for many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that's quite important is really for us to spend time talking about it and navigating to see where the gap is between what your expectations are and what my expectations are and what we've been patterned on based on, I suppose, our upbringing. And as we go into the marriage together, we need to know that we are starting our own culture. It's not something that's inherited from our parents, so to speak. I mean, of course, we keep the good things, but uh, and I suppose we discard the things that don't add value to our relationship, because we are now a new family unit.
Mm. Actually, I think a lot of this conversation stems from the fact that you really need to be self-aware of what you hold dear as priorities or values in your life, right? And if we ourselves don't know what's important to us, then how do we know what kind of culture and value that we want to create? What is a new thing that we want to develop in this marriage and this relationship? Because I think a lot of time is, if you think about it and you spend a lot of time reflecting, like thinking, oh yeah, I want my family to be like that, like this, I want family time, quality time together. Meals are meant to be eaten together. Like, I expect you to come home from and make sure that we're all together as a family. We're not looking at our phones during the meal times. I think those are certain things that I feel is important to me, and I know that's what I want in my family culture. And so then that's easier then to be able to bring it out in that relationship. I think, like, to have that discussion.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at the comments here.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
For us, we are also quite intentional with getting, I suppose, or learning from external sources. Grace, especially, she loves reading books about parenting, attending conferences, webinars, and I really thank her for that, because that's where we get great input, and we sit together and then we talk about what she's just learned and whether it's something that we want to add into our family unit. Not all the time we agree, I think. There are times when yeah, certain values or certain principles you learn are different from what I would like, but that's where we have a chat together to see or understand why you might want to do certain things in a certain way and why I would want to do certain things differently.
So, okay, maybe give you an example. Like, I think one of the issues we face is this whole idea of like taking initiative or responsibility in the marriage, right? So, like, Alex has this problem. Yeah, where he thinks that, like, I don't take a lot of initiative in the relationship or marriage. Like, sometimes he feels like I procrastinate a lot and I don't do certain things. Okay, so for me, I always feel that, like, my procrastination stems from the fact that if I don't like to do something, I just delay, and also I hate to be inconvenienced. So that is a value that was actually brought down upon me from, I think, my dad, maybe. Because we when we grow up, we always say, like, just do something that's convenient, and don't go out of the way to do something. So it's like I've lived like that for so many years of my life, and then suddenly you ask me to go and take extra effort to do something in the relationship or in the family context, and it was quite stressful.
And maybe it comes from the fact that I was the firstborn in the family, and there were a lot of responsibilities that I had to undertake. So coming into marriage, I still maintain that I suppose idea that we should all be looking for things to fix all the time, or doing something even if it means going out of the way for your partner. And that's one of those things that I suppose I had to also start to understand, that Grace is the youngest in her family, and quite a number of things were done for her, and just I suppose talking through
Yeah.
through that.
Yeah, I didn't have to do a lot. Okay, if my siblings are watching this, didn't really have to do a lot of things in my family. But I think, yeah, it's true, because the birth order thing did play a part as well. Because it just meant that I was so used to, having things served to me. So yeah, you can do all the work and I can just sit back and be the tai.
So here's a question for you guys. Do any of you feel like you encounter these differences in expectations because maybe you are the eldest, whereas your spouse is the youngest or middle child or things like that? Maybe you can share with us and then we can have a discussion on that.
Yeah, Shireen says if we go beyond chores and gender roles, like what we were discussing just now, she says she faces the most challenges upon dealing with life events such as change, disappointment, sickness, birth, career, and even the passing away. Actually, it's true. I think a lot of stressful life situations really puts us in that space where it's a crunch, right? Like your real values just really come up during that period of time. And suddenly like you realize, hey, my viewpoint about this is completely different from my
Yeah.
spouse. Yeah.
Yeah, oftentimes when we enter into marriage, we are not really truly tested. When you are dating, everything seems rosy. Everything also can do.
Actually, I think when you
Yeah.
go into marriage, like it's more like you're drawn together, or maybe when you're dating, you're drawn together because you have similar interests. Like, oh, we like traveling, or we like to go and watch a movie together. No, those are interests, but then it doesn't mean that your values are being tested. Like, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily talk about that. Hey, do you want to have kids when you get married? Like,
Yeah.
those are not issues you talk about when you're dating
Hey, you
necessarily.
should.
Okay,
You
well,
should,
you
definitely
should. That's
should.
why if you go for premarital counseling or have those kind of workshops that help you to discuss such issues is actually really good. But then I think you probably scare the guy away if you start talking about it on your first or second date.
Yeah, I think premarital counseling is very good. Not because you've got problems, but because you want to make sure you have a sustainable and a solid marriage that's founded on good values. So yeah, I think one of the things that you mentioned was when you're dating, you tend to be drawn together because of interest. You like to go hiking, you like to watch movies, and so on. But you need to start thinking about, I suppose, the whole culture aspect as you move closer towards marriage, and what is it that you want for your whole life? Because this is not just a few years, but it's really a whole lifetime that you're going to be together. You're going to go through those difficult times, like Shireen mentioned, and sometimes in the heat of the moment when you're having fun, you don't really talk about some of these things. You don't talk about your family upbringing. You don't share those deep conversations about things that maybe hurt you or how you feel towards some of those things.
Yeah. Well, for those people who just joined us, like Yifong, hi, thanks for joining. And I just want to say that actually this is a huge topic, right? What we're discussing now is about marriage and upbringing and how do we navigate our differences when we have different value systems or different upbringing, and a lot of these things can actually bring conflict into the relationship. Yeah. So I think the important thing is communication is is the key, right? And a lot of times people who go into marriage, sometimes after many years, they say something like, I don't even know what to talk about with my spouse, or my partner is the silent type. He doesn't really share his feelings. He doesn't say very much at all. And a lot of the relationship becomes very functional. So it's like, oh, when you eat for dinner, where to go for dinner, why should we do this? Have you fed the kids? All those kind of things. Sounds like talking about feeding the dog. But yeah, it's very functional. So sometimes we don't bring up all these issues, or issues surface. It goes under the surface because you don't talk about it. And even if a situation like that really is a major situation that happens in your life, maybe if you don't talk about it, then it's like the expectations that I'm just keeping it to myself. Maybe I feel offended that you are always working, for example, like you never come back from meals. Why is it that you have certain expectations? For example, if you are a person who thinks like, hey, once you have kids, you're gonna give up your job and take care of the kids, what? And I will feel like, no, I don't. I feel offended at that because I want to pursue my career.
Yeah.
So those are like real issues, and if you don't talk about it, then like it's just gonna fester inside
Yeah.
because you feel offended, but we just never talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think for us, I really enjoyed the holiday that we had to Singapore at the end of last year. We had
Okay. Sorry guys, we got disconnected earlier. It's like Malika says you lost us. So
Yeah. Okay, we're back.
thanks
Maybe
Cheyenne for joining. Yes, we're back again. We're hoping the internet connection is okay.
okay.
A recap.
Yeah, so we were talking about finances and how that can be one area that really drives couples apart, because oftentimes,
Yeah.
we come into this marriage with I don't know what you call it, baggage, or but very very distinct differences in how you treat money. Maybe you come from a spender kind of a background. I want to buy the latest fashions, the latest fads. I must have branded goods all the time.
Or you just feel like I work so hard, I want to
Yeah.
spend my money, so like it's worthwhile to spend my money. Or versus somebody who's like, no, we must always save. We just, whatever we spend is not for spending at all. It's like for saving for the future. So you always end up feeling very dissatisfied because your partner wants to spend money, let's say go for holiday, and then you're like, no, 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 we cannot do that because we have to save money. Save money for don't know when. Some people, they save until they retire, so never spend their money. Yeah.
So I think both approaches, there's nothing wrong with either, but
Yeah.
but it's about balance and keeping, I suppose, the sanity and happiness within the marriage, and that's always a big topic that couples should spend time talking about. Maybe I can share, like in my family, my parents, they had separate bank accounts. They somehow divided who would pay for different things in the household. Maybe my mom would pay for groceries, my dad would pay for the mortgage or stuff like that. But coming into marriage, once again during that premarital counseling period, I found it very helpful because they talked about concepts such as putting everything together, because you are coming together as a family unit, but maybe having certain rules about how you spend, just so that both parties are happy when you spend money.
Yeah, I think when we got married, like we had this discussion, and then we said, like, for example, my parents, they always told me like, hey, you must make sure you always have separate bank accounts from your spouse, because you never know what's going to happen in the future, and it's always safe to be separate, that kind of thing. So but then when we went into marriage, we had the same value system where marriage is forever, like die will work this marriage out as much as possible. And
Wasn't it
that's
your
not.
mom? Wasn't it your mom who had like that backdoor concept where just in case something happens, you better have some money for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, it's like it's normal, right? Normal advice, and I think most people do advise that. But then somehow when we came together, we decided that we want to create our own culture, like our new family culture, and we had to discuss what exactly does this mean for us. Do we want to go into our marriage with this thought, idea, or how do we want to approach this whole topic about finances, right? Like, so for us, we decided that, like, since our value system is that marriage is forever and we are going to work towards this, so we decided to have our own joint accounts, and so we decided we manage money together. And I think that was the decisions basically came from that space where we had to have that kind of discussion, and then we decided that because we felt this way about the relationship, therefore this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm quite happy for the decision that we made in the end.
Yeah. Malika says his money, her money, our money, all the same, is it? Yeah, so I think that was quite good. And the other thing about, like, especially when it comes to like finance, I think what we did was that we talked about how much we're willing to spend separately. For example, I mean, I'm not going to ask you every time like, oh, can I use this money to ask permission lah. Basically, we didn't have that kind of like culture of I need to ask permission to use the money because it's our money. But then we agreed upon the idea that when we spent
Exceeded a certain
above,
threshold.
yeah, so we decided what was that threshold. I don't know whether I can remember, it was like 500 or something like that.
How convenient. She doesn't remember, right? So she just spend, right? Yeah.
So we decide like it's a certain threshold. Then we said, okay, we will check with each other. Like, hey, this thing I want to buy costs X amount of dollars. Like, what do you think about it? Or it's not so much about asking permission, but it was just being accountable. Yeah.
Yeah. It was 500, by the way.
Oh, 500. Yeah. Yeah, so hey guys, if any of you have questions, I think we had initially some questions also people had written in, so we've compiled some of that and we're going to try to address some of these things that people ask. Yeah, so do type in messages and comments if you have any in the chat group. All right, great. Malika says, I agree that open communication is the key. Yeah, and Shireen says, oh, nice, functional. Sometimes we can jump to conclusions about certain issue, as in like we don't want to talk about it to maintain peace. Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's a big one, and maybe that's one of the reasons why couples don't talk so much after the first few years of marriage, or especially when kids come along. You just bury yourself in work as an excuse, perhaps, just to get away from tough topics that need to be discussed.
I mean, I think I don't know, is it a Malaysian thing? Like, trying to avoid conflict. I think nobody likes conflict, lah, right? But sometimes people say, like, yeah, keep the peace, don't talk about it, lah. Yeah, never mind, we disagree on this, or we just agree to disagree, and then we'll never, never, never ever bring it up again. But then actually, like you have all these things festering inside of you, right? Because you've never actually had some kind of you never had that conversation, you just agreed to disagree silently.
And maybe there's some bitterness in that.
Yeah, I think the bitterness is a part that like will rob you of joy lah in that relationship. And there is a difference between making peace and keeping peace, like because some people, as we said, like don't want to have conflict, so therefore you just don't address issues because you just don't want to talk about it, so you avoid the issue altogether. But then making peace actually takes effort, and it actually goes to the stage where you are confronting the issue, willing to confront it and bring it up in a way that, hey, we want to look for a resolution. And I think that's really the difference. It's not about avoiding conflict because you want to keep peace. Yeah. Hi Teha. Teha's just joined us. And Gig. Yay! Hi Gig. Yeah. So yeah, what's your some of the extra things you want to add on, or the opinions that you have?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we have opportunities to talk about things. Not all the time. I think one of the issues that we have, or one of the differences, is I'm a very morning person. I can wake up at 4 o'clock and I can fully function. But by 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, I'm quite tired already. And
yeah, so okay, must have wisdom in knowing how to discuss, what time to discuss.
Yeah. So having date nights is quite good. It's very difficult to do it with kids, that's for sure. Otherwise, you'll be like telling them to, hey, please finish up your food, please. And we can't really have a proper adult conversation to talk about issues or things that we don't quite agree on. So stashing the kids with friends or in-laws or somebody who's willing to take your kids, or maybe you can even do a kind of a partnership with another couple. I take your kids on this night, you guys go on a date, then another night I send my kids to your house. Yeah.
So I think the important thing is you make space, right? You make space for this conversation to actually happen. Yeah, you need to be intentional. So I think there's two ways around it, that you need to communicate about how you feel. So firstly, you really do need to be self-aware about what are your values, what are the things that are important to you, and then you have to think, hey, is this actually negotiable or non-negotiable? Is what I'm feeling like, because sometimes, I don't know, sometimes human beings, we always have this tendency of feeling like I'm always right, or my way is the best way. In fact, actually we did have that that discussion, I accuse him of always saying that you're always right, or you think your opinion's always right, and so we must have that humility to listen to the other person's opinion without any judgment. And actually, that's a lot harder to do than to say, right? I mean, it's really hard to just listen without judgment. I think sometimes when we bring up issues, a lot of times people feel like, oh my goodness, no, that's not the way, or they start rebutting. But I think if we practice listening to one another without any judgment, without just completely like, okay, I'm open all ears, I listen to you, I have this attitude of humility to just be willing to listen to your opinion, then there's room for conversation, for very healthy conversation,
Yes.
actually.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. I think one other area that's very helpful in relationships is the willingness to unlearn. Like we talked earlier about the differences that come into play because you've been patterned a certain way. I think a very simple story that I was told that was kind of funny also was about this couple that had a disagreement when they were renovating their house. Definitely, renovations is a very stressful point in time. But they had this huge fight because of the material they wanted to use for the second story. You know, I think the husband said, it's got to be wooden flooring, but the wife said, no, it's got to be tiles. And it's wooden flooring, tiles, wooden flooring, tiles. And later on, they discovered it was because their own parents' houses was built that way. He had wooden flooring in his house and she had tiles in his house, and therefore they wanted to do it that way. So possibly, being open to change and unlearning certain things, that come with your whole family background is good. And I suppose just discussing why you might want to have that wooden flooring or why you might want to have tiles, and hopefully you can find resolution. If you still can't find resolution, then what do you think should happen?
I think having third party does help. Yeah, I mean, of course, families or marriages that really go through very, very deep problems and cannot resolve a lot of very deep issues, really do need to seek some kind of therapy and help. And I mean, it is not, I think we need to be able to have that mindset that seeking help for your marriage is not a taboo, right? Like, it is
Yes.
not something that, oh, everybody feels that something's wrong with my marriage and therefore I need to go and talk to somebody else. No, it's about saving that relationship and making it even better. So I think that's where we have to change our mindset. Here, especially in Asia, that we want to improve. We're always on that improvement. We value the relationship. We want to improve the relationship, and it's not wrong to seek for help,
Yeah.
lah. Yeah.
I think sometimes we need to look at the long term
Mm.
and ask ourselves, how important is this quarrel? How important is it that I am right? I might win this one battle, but I lose the whole war because I managed to get my way. Yeah. And end of the day, I think the long term happiness in that marriage is more important than just winning that one single fight.
But how do you talk to couple? I mean, like as a couple, right? Let's say it's all's good, right? When two people are willing to have that discussion. But what if one person is really not willing to have that discussion?
Yeah.
To bring up issues or like.
Well,
Yeah.
I think I like your idea that you shared about being or getting a third party. And I think we sometimes have this facade, everything that we talk about, whether it's on social media, on Facebook or Instagram, it's all the good parts of our lives. But how often do we open up? I'm not saying that you have to open up all your dirty laundry on social media, but perhaps find trusted friends that both of you feel comfortable with, and just inviting them over for a meal and saying, hey, what do you think? We are going through a rough patch, and we're talking about certain things. Could you give us your opinion? Oftentimes, there's wisdom because there's more people, more heads in the room, and you may be able to get some kind of a resolution there. And
Well,
I'd
but
say
I
try
think it's
it.
important to know if, I mean, okay, if you're not going to a marriage therapist, for example, it's important to be wise about your friends that you choose to talk to. I mean, if you are contemplating divorce and then you want to go and talk with a friend who's also divorced, they will have a very different, and you ask them about their opinion will be very different from somebody whose marriage has lasted so long for 30 years, right? Like I mean, sometimes the issue is like people who have problems, they don't necessarily want other people to tell you what to do. Like, you want to be able to figure things out, but you may need just a listening ear.
Yeah.
You need someone to listen to you, and sometimes it's in the verbalization that like suddenly all these feelings actually just come out lah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so hi, Angela, Jason, and Vidya. Thanks for joining us. So, we're having this conversation about marriage, values, systems, and how do you navigate the differences? What do you do when your spouse has very different value system from yours? Yeah,
So earlier today, well, maybe just to take a step back,
Yeah.
we were talking about the differences between values, cultures, and even interests.
Mm.
Yeah. So what we came up with was, I suppose, um, a whole set of values that we have, then patterns the culture for a marriage.
Mm.
Yeah. So an interest alone doesn't necessarily mean it's a value. Interests, we said, were maybe short term things that can change, but values, I suppose, are things that last a little longer. Not to say that values don't change. I think over time, some of my values have changed because after rationalizing certain things that maybe my wife has shared, I realized, yeah, maybe the culture of our marriage should be shifted because the value that I used to have uh, maybe wasn't the best for our marriage. So I've been willing to make changes, and oftentimes by willing to make that first step to change, then it's also reciprocated later on when there are certain issues or certain values that I would maybe hope Grace would change along the way. And ultimately that would lead to a certain culture for our family and our
Actually,
marriage.
I think when we first got married, we had a lot of conflict as well. It's quite normal after marriage. Like you realize, well, we dated for 2 years, and then after that we got married, and we thought like, hey, we went through premarital counseling, everything's okay. We should kind of like should get this ironed out. And I think we faced a lot of problems in our initial few years of our marriage in terms of discussing, getting angry, upset at one another, and trying to align all of the value systems that he has in his head that's correct. In my head, I feel that this is right, and this is he feels is right, and we're trying to merge these together, and it was a source of a lot of conflict. And in fact, like, I think for me it was also that feeling of I was feeling also very insecure as a person, and so that kind of like didn't work or didn't help because it was playing on my insecurities. And I was really it just brought a lot of ugliness lah, right? And so I think just then, as we started to discuss all these things, I realized, oh my goodness, like, am I reacting because I'm insecure about this? Therefore, like, oh, I feel that you're attacking me on this issue. So I had to deal with a lot of those kind of personal self-reflection, and then come to that realization that actually it is a problem that I have. And then I had to slowly like work through that. And so it was that realization, and it takes time. We have to slowly learn how to change ourselves first, because if we think that we want to change our partner, if we think like, I'm going to change this person after marriage, actually it's the reality is that you can't change anybody. You can only change yourself, and you can influence your partner's thinking, but he has to learn or really decide in himself that you want to make a change.
Yeah. I think one thing that really helped was when you were vulnerable and we had a conversation one day and you said, you know, because of what you say, it makes me feel this way. And you shared that it wasn't very helpful, and I think it was the atmosphere that we were in that helped that conversation. We were not in a heated conversation at that point in time. We were not fighting through something, but we were calm, and that was when we had a very nice, honest conversation, and that also gave me a realization that some things that I said were not very helpful in the marriage.
Yeah, I think like sometimes the tone of voice really kills that wanting to discuss, right? Because it's like if you're coming in that angle of like I'm attacking you, and that feeling like, oh, you are like that, why you never change, why you behave this way, and what kind of attitude is this, so if you have that kind of approach to that relationship and you talk that way, I'm gonna be like super like, I don't want to talk about this because you're behaving this way, and it just shuts me off rather than actually asking in a way or a tone of voice that it makes that invites conversation. I was like, maybe asking things like, how do you feel about this issue, and then it gives that person space to say, oh, I think like this, I feel this way, and then just really truly listening, without judgment. We have some questions or comments, and Jordan says, agree, ask a question from the right person with the right person, right? Like, so don't go and ask wrong, don't approach the wrong couple, wrong people to ask. And Gek says, what if one party thinks communication isn't necessarily the problem, and the problem is always the other party?
That can be quite a problem. That's why I think, coming back to the atmosphere that I was talking about, if let's say you can discuss it in a very peaceful environment, and understanding why the other person thinks that they don't have a problem, and also I suppose being humble enough to understand from the other person's perspective why they see it as being felt that way. It would definitely help.
Yeah, but I mean, so what do you do then? Because like do you keep on probing? Because sometimes people might feel like say your partner's like, I don't really want to talk about this, and then you keep on probing and probing. It's like can be seen as I'm nagging you, no?
Well, I think, like you talked about tone of voice. So if let's say everyone wakes up on a Saturday morning, it's a very happy kind of an environment. You sit down, you just say, hey, I know you feel this way about me, and I'm willing to listen and to improve myself. Could you just share with me why you feel I'm spending so much money? Yeah, I will also share with you my point of view why I feel I need to spend some money. But let's work on this together. Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's why we said the earlier point is like trying to get a third party. I think that if somebody that you guys trust to have that conversation together, and think that would be something quite good.
Yeah. But aside from that, I suppose the constant learning is also important. I mean, if we can seek out, whether it's webinars or whether it's books, but keep on learning from other people so that we don't fall into the trap of making mistakes that other people have made before. Learn from others who have maybe more experience, who have gone this journey before. Find a mentor. Mentors are not just for business, but very likely also for marriage. Why not seek out an older couple? I think they would feel honored if you were to ask them to say, hey, could we have you as a mentor, or someone to guide us along this journey of marriage.
Okay, we did have another offline question that somebody asked. We compiled some questions, and the person says, if your partner is a silent one, so basically doesn't really respond, so during discussions, okay, confrontations or even rants as a couple, because he feels or she feels it's better to just give in to one another. So what's your take on this kind of behavior, right? I think sometimes some people, okay, some silent people, or maybe people who are very deeply introverted or thinkers, they actually take a long time to process their thoughts. Okay, not everybody is quick to respond, and not everyone who's like because different people have different personalities. Some people can just think off the top of their head and then suddenly like, maybe they're lawyers lah. Okay, that's stereotyping. But then it's like some people are so quick to respond, and some people just take such a long time to process their thoughts. And so maybe being silent is not necessarily a sign that this person is not willing to talk about it. Maybe this person just needs to process the what has just been said, think through about what they feel, how they feel about it, and then only come back with a response to that. So I think if your partner is that kind of person who needs that all of this time, like maybe you can give that time, like say, so if you bring up an issue and then you think, okay, let's talk about this later on. So it's okay, you don't have to give me an answer immediately, but let's talk about it again when you're ready, and let's try to check in again like maybe 1 week later. So because if you just give an open-ended no time frame, it can be like 1 year later and you still haven't discussed it because you just keep delaying it. So if you have something like, say, okay, I give you that time and then let's talk about it 1 week, 2 weeks later, at least there's still some kind of time frame, and you can say that, let's discuss.
Yeah. If not, then it can be very dangerous because things keep on festering and
Yeah.
growing, and then one day there'll be this huge blow up, and that would not be very nice.
Yeah. Hi, Xialing and Jason, who just joined us. Thanks for coming. Okay, so what about our views? Another question someone asked. Views on long-term, long-distance relationships. Perhaps it is due to career on both ends. So meaning like you're married and both parties are working separate locations and it's a long-term arrangement. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for you as a couple to talk about it, because obviously this question comes from someone who possibly doesn't appreciate the long distance relationship. And I would say, someone's got to maybe give up something or move to be with the other person as far as possible. It's not always about money, and each person earning a lot in each location, but ultimately it should also be about the health of the relationship. And if it makes sense to move to where the other partner is, then it should be done. It might not be the easiest decision, but it probably should be done for the health of the whole relationship.
But some couples are absolutely fine living apart even though they're married. Like I know of friends whose families who like the dad was living in Indonesia and for like 30 years or whatever, but of course they travel back and forth, but the mother was taking care of the kids and everything, and they live separate lives like in Indonesia and then Malaysia, and they were totally fine with it.
Then it's
so
fine.
then it's fine.
Yeah.
There's no issue, right?
Yeah,
Like
but the fact that this question came up.
okay, so if
I
the
suppose
then you
shows.
feel it feels like somebody that the person who brings up the issue probably has an issue about it, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So then I guess you do have to see what's important to you, and then like just see because if the other person is really not willing to give up the job, like how can you come to that common ground, right?
So I think the deeper root of it is what do you want to achieve at the end of the day for your marriage? Is money worth more than happiness and joy, and the kids and that whole relationship?
Yeah. So a lot of these things are not easy questions to navigate, really. But asking questions it's the start. It's the start to something that will eventually get you through these difficult rough patches and iron out the differences that you have. So I suggest tackling one issue at a time. Don't try to bring up like so many different issues at the same time, and slowly work through certain things. So I think maybe we just recap some of the stuff that we just discussed. How do you navigate your differences, so that we can just close and wrap up and close.
I think one of the things that we talked about was also we had an idea that first of all you need to have an awareness that there's differences between the two, and then I suppose you also need to have time to work on the differences, just to discuss it, and just to see, you know, which culture we want to have for our marriage.
Yeah, it helps
Yeah.
to write things down. So individually write down what are the values that you hold dear. You know, what are the values that is important to you, and then when we come together, we say, oh, okay, great, these are common values that we have, but yet at the same time, like, oh, look, there's something here that, you know,
That
could
doesn't align.
yeah, that doesn't align. So
So
how
what do we
then?
keep or throw?
Yeah, what do we keep? What do we throw? What do we adjust? How do we align ourselves in a way that that makes sense for this family?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then agree to. Sometimes we, you know, some couples, they are okay to just compromise, agree to disagree. And if that's okay with you and you're totally at peace with it and your partner's totally at peace with it, then that's great solution, right? But if it's not, then you really do have to have that conversation. And then lastly, to
Take action.
take action. Really talk about it, okay? Set a time frame to talk about things. Don't just delay it and just think that the issues will go away by itself, because issues will never go away by itself. It will just come back again in the future to haunt you, or something will just happen and then you suddenly feel like, oh my goodness, it becomes a big thing. Yeah, and finally, if you really can't agree to something and it's a huge issue in your life, I suggest actually to get the help of a third party, a wise person who will be able to speak into your life, whether it's someone you trust, an older person, someone whose marriage you know,
You want to
whose
pattern
opinion,
after.
your marriage, you want to pattern after their own marriage, or somebody that you trust that is what is, I just repeated myself, like, is wise already, right? So yeah, or even go for marriage therapy, counseling. So yeah, I think that's it.
All right. Thank you very much. It was nice having you guys.
Thanks so much, guys. And if you want to hear more content like this, please say yes in the chat. And we will create more Facebook Live sessions like this in the future. Please also like our Comma Facebook page to see all the updates, articles, the videos that we create. And so I hope that this kind of content will really benefit you. We also have things that we want to do in the future, like maybe organize workshops, because we've also done marriage, like the one about the 5 love languages, we did that as well. So, you know, if you're interested in such content, please write a comment there and say, yes, I'm interested, so that, you know, we can keep in touch, and we know that such people like you guys, we really want to be able to be beneficial. I mean, like, to be able to share. And I think the important thing to know is that, like, hey, we are not like gurus in that sense, but then we just want to be able to share and talk about issues, and we want you guys to feel that you're not alone out there with the problems, because everybody goes through problems in relationships. Yeah, so connect with us and just like our Facebook page to keep in touch. Take care, guys.
Bye
See
bye.
you.